Yo, 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 it's your man's NOCAP Yog, NOCAP YOG, that's NOCAP NOCAP Yog. Thank everybody for tuning in to the NOCAP Podcast, where you know what we do. We ask you to please stop the cap. Please, please stop the cap. All right. So today we got a quick hitter discussion. All right. So I want to let you know. Check out Mirrorless Media Group on all platforms. These are the best people to contact. One of the best people to contact for your social media content, your film content, weddings, short films, docuseries, the whole nine. Any content you need, contact Mirrorless Media Group and ask for Johan. All right. It's a great resource. Also, check out the Raw Earth Organic docuseries where you can go and learn healthy ways to stay healthy, stay alive, and also learn how to grow your own food and just help tips along the way. That's going to keep you alive and healthy without having to depend on medicines, possible poisons, and different type of pharmaceuticals. All right. We want to get back to the natural, holistic healing that was intended to us by design in the beginning. All right. Now we got all that out the way. Thank you guys. Right. Now we got all out the way. Just want to let you know it's bussing. All right. All those things that I just named right now are bussing. Now we're going to get into a small topic today, and it's hot in America and across the world right now. And I'll give you 2 seconds to guess what it is. 2, 1. Boom. Well, if you read the title, you already know what it is. If you didn't, we're going to be talking briefly a little bit about what's going on in Los Angeles, California with the ICE raids, the immigration raids, and the basically warrants and mass deportations that's been going on. All right. So like I said, we're going to keep this pretty quick. All I'm going to do is give you a quick overview on what exactly is going on. What I will also do is I'm going to read a little just different sources from the internet that you can go and look at yourself so you can learn some more information. And then I'll actually speak on how I feel about this whole dilemma. All right. So if you guys are wondering what an ICE raid is, an ICE raid is a raid and similar ones that are across America, right, by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. OK, Immigration Custom Enforcement. That's ICE. All right. And they represent a significant escalation in the White House strategy to round up and deport undocumented migrants. OK, so your next question may be, what does ICE do to immigrants? All right. This is what they do. They enforce immigration laws within the United States, primarily by identifying, arresting, detaining, and or removing individuals who are illegally present in the United States. This includes targeting those who have committed crimes and those who pose a threat to public safety. ICE also plays a role in combating transnational crime, investigating cybercrime, and combating financial crime. All right. And I am reading this from Google right now. All right. ERO is an enforcement and removal operation. All right. Enforcement and removal operations. Officers enforce immigration laws, including arresting, detaining, and removing individuals subject to removal or unlawfully present in the U.S. They prioritize enforcement actions based on agency and department priorities, funding, and capacity, allowing flexibility to respond to various events like border crossings or changes in laws. Now, there is a few other activities that go on within all of these operations, right? Between ICE and ERO. ICE detains individuals to ensure they appear for immigration proceedings or removal, particularly those subject to mandatory detention or deemed a public safety or flight risk. Detention is not punitive, but rather used to secure an individual's presence in immigration proceedings or removals. ICE exercises discretion in determining custody, considering factors like risk of flight, national security, public safety, and humanitarian factors. All right. There's another program called the CAP, the Criminal Alien Program. CAP focuses on the identification, arrest, and removal of these incarcerated aliens at federal, state, and local levels, as well as at large criminal aliens. All right. ICE investigates and combats transnational crime, including drug trafficking, human trafficking, and money laundering. ICE also investigates cybercrime and financial crimes. Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP, works with government agencies to gather information on non-immigrants who are student exchange visitors. All right. So that is information about ICE, ERO, the CAP program, and what that basically is. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on currently in Los Angeles. All right. There are more than 1.2 million Los Angeles residents that are of Mexican ancestry. Okay. Mexican influences can be seen in the city's culture. Mexican Americans are the largest ethnic group in Los Angeles. All right. So just go do your research. Go check that out. In 2021, Mexicans had the highest count of ethnicity in Los Angeles. All right. So you can go check that out when you do your own research. And what is going down in LA is that there are protests going on in spite of these ICE raids. Okay. So I'm reading another source from ABC News, and it says the decision by President Donald Trump to deploy the National Guard and Marines over the objections of local and state leaders has set off a war of words between Trump and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and California Governor Gavin Newsom. The president has publicly called Bass and Newsom incompetent in the crisis, and the mayor and governor have countered that Trump is abusing the power of Oval Office. Whoa, sorry, had to yawn. By sending the military and alleging he is escalating an already volatile situation. All right. So this is what's going on in LA. There have been protests, which has had people throwing all types of things at law enforcement, screaming at law enforcement, standoffs with law enforcement, burning vehicles, even vehicles that have picked up and detained people. They're throwing rocks at them. You guys are going to check these videos out, cracking windows, setting vehicles ablaze, Molotov cocktails, and other projectiles that are being thrown at police. Okay. This is what's going on. All right. What happened on June 6th? ICE agents carried out a series of immigration sweeps across Southern California, and reports of federal agents running after people in parking lot of Home Depot in the Westlake neighborhood near downtown LA start circulating in the community. And, you know, there's talk that's going around. All right. Around 3 p.m. local time, a crowd begins gathering in the downtown fashion district after ICE agents show up at an apparel manufacturing business. Aerial footage taken by ABC News in Los Angeles station shows what appears to be ICE agents loading 2 white passenger vehicles with people in handcuffs. As the vehicles leave the apparel business, protesters try to unsuccessfully stop them, including one individual who was seen lying down in the path of one of the cars. Several hours later, a large group of protesters gathered outside the Edward R. Roybal Federal Building and U.S. Courthouse downtown, calling for an end to immigration raids in the city. Video footage shows protesters vandalizing the building, heckling police, and throwing bottles and other objects at officers who use shields to protect themselves. Police in riot gear have been seen confronting protesters with batons and even tear gas launchers. All right. So let's talk about what happened on June 7th, the next day. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, according to ABC News, receives a report around 10:15 a.m. of a large crowd gathering in Paramount, a small suburb of Los Angeles, amid rumors that ICE is preparing to raid a Home Depot there. Deputies ordered the crowd to disperse and fired tear gas and a flashbang when people refused to leave. Around the same time, another protest broke out in neighboring Compton, where reports emerged of vandalism, including protesters setting a car on fire in the street. Later, Mayor Bass said that there were no ICE raids in Paramount or anywhere else in Los Angeles County on Saturday. She said the building in Paramount that protesters gathered near was being used as a staging area for federal resources. Around 6 p.m., Trump signed a presidential memorandum authorizing the deployment of 2,000 National Guard members in Los Angeles, saying it is necessary to address the lawlessness in Los Angeles. Bass and Newsom immediately object to the president's decision, saying it would only inflame tensions. All right. So that was June 7th. Now we're going to continue down to June 8th. June 8th, National Guard troops began arriving in Los Angeles around 4 a.m., according to ABC, taking up as a position outside the Roybal Federal Building. The deployment marked the first time a president has mobilized a state's National Guard without a governor's consent since President Lyndon B. Johnson did so in 1965 when he sent the National Guard troops to Alabama to protect the civil rights activists marching from Selma to Montgomery. 22 Democratic governors released a joint statement calling Trump's decision to deploy the National Guard an alarming abuse of power. Governors are commanders-in-chief of their National Guard, and the federal government activating them in their own borders without consulting or working with the state's governors is ineffective and dangerous, the joint statement reads. A large group of protesters began marching in downtown Los Angeles, chanting and holding signs reading "Fight Trump." The LAPD goes on tactical alert, meaning all personnel are to remain on duty as the city braces for another evening of protests. Despite officers using less lethal... I'm yawning so much. I am so sorry. Whoa, ASMR, yawning ASMR. Oh my gosh. Protesters marched on the 101 freeway, halting traffic on a portion of the freeway running through downtown. 2 LAPD officers were injured by motorcyclists attempting to breach a skirmish line police had established, according to the officials. Video captured other demonstrators standing on an overpass, throwing objects, including at least one scooter and a bicycle, at a California Highway Patrol officer and their vehicle as the CHP attempted to remove protesters from the freeway. All right. There's a statement. Tonight, we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. LAPD Chief Jim McDonald says at the news conference. Governor Newsom formally requested that Trump administration rescind its unlawful deployment of National Guard troops. All right. Now we're moving on to June 9th. Here's June 9th. At 12:11 a.m. local time, the LAPD declared protest in all of downtown Los Angeles acts of unlawful assembly and ordered people to leave the area or risk arrest. U.S. military officials confirmed that 700 members of the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines at 29 Palms, California, are being deployed to Los Angeles. California Attorney General Rob Bonta said he and Newsom are suing the Trump administration, alleging the president and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth have trampled over California's sovereignty by unlawfully invoking a law that's intended to prevent another yawn. Oh my gosh. Ugh. I don't know what's going on. I'm not even tired. Invoking a law that's intended to prevent an invasion by a foreign nation or a rebellion or in response to local and state law enforcement making so that the law of the United States cannot be executed. Returning to the White House from a weekend trip to Camp David, Trump told reporters it would be great if Tom Hannon, acting head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, arrested Newsom, although Homan says he and the president had no discussions about arresting the governor. All right. As protests in Los Angeles entered their 4th night, photos from the scene showed tense moments as demonstrators confronted police. At one point, police said protesters near Temple Street and Los Angeles Street in downtown LA were throwing objects at police, and LAPD incident commander authorized the use of less lethal ammunition in response. Now, we're going to June 10th. We are covering over 3 days so far. June 10th, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum slams the U.S. for criminalizing migration, saying Mexican immigrants are law-abiding citizens and necessary for the U.S. economy. At the White House, a reporter asked Trump if he would use the Insurrection Act as a response to the protests. The president responds, "If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We will see." These are paid insurrectionists. These are paid troublemakers, Trump said of the protesters without citing supporting evidence. If we didn't get involved and send the National Guard, right now Los Angeles would be burning, just like it was burning a number of months ago with all the houses that were lost, Trump said, referencing the January wildfires that ravaged Los Angeles. At an evening news conference, Mayor Bass announces she is declaring a local emergency and imposing an 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in the downtown area, saying it has become a necessary step to stop vandalism and the looting businesses there. the looting of businesses there. She said that the curfew is being imposed in a 1 square mile area of downtown where the protest and violence has occurred. Bass says 23 downtown businesses were looted on Monday, June 9th alone. LAPD officer Chief Jim McConnell says 197 people were arrested downtown on Tuesday night alone. So my message to you is, if you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area. Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew and you will be prosecuted, Bass said. That's what Bass said. Okay. She says she plans to meet with elected leaders and law enforcement on Wednesday to discuss the continuation of curfew. All right. So that is the tea. It's tea time. That is the tea we have for what's going on in downtown Los Angeles. Now, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, what it's giving. Okay. This whole situation is giving a lot, honestly. There's just a few points I want to make. And first off, the main factor that I want to address here is it's very necessary for us as a people, no matter what color you are, to have a good heart, right? And understand that if you are a good person, you should be treated justly. And if you are a bad person, you should be treated justly, but there should be consequence, right? And what's going on in America right now is a mixture of things, okay? For one, there are good people, whether they're immigrants or not, and there are bad people, whether they are immigrants or not. And I am not educated enough on the topic on who exactly they are arresting and deporting, because I have no idea. I haven't looked at the list and look at their background and look at, what they've done. But the people of America do not trust the system that is in place, and they feel right now, many people feel as if the government is attacking one group of immigrants when there are many, many group of immigrants that come into America. That is one of the huge topics now. And now this is just me speaking. I feel like that is the reason for a lot of the unrest and protests, somewhat violent protests in the city, is because people here feel as if you are targeting a specific person, not because they are immigrants, but because of a deeper purpose, which has to do with the color of their skin or just hate. So that's what's going on right now, right? And it sucks because let's just say these immigrants are causing problems, right? And they deserve to be taken back. Now, for the people who are acting justly and righteously, it makes them, makes people look at them in a bad light, which is not fair, right? Just because a person of a certain nationality, bloodline, or color acts a certain way does not mean that you can label all people with that punishment or judgment on how you view them or how you look at them. That is not fair, that is not correct, and that's not right. Now, the second topic I want to talk about is the fact that people do not feel like it's fair that America is doing this to its people here because of the fact that the government's nationality, bloodline, who came here in this place, how they acquired the land had a lot of history to it. And California not existing to used to be a part of America has a lot of history to it. And that's huge. So the people in this country, and especially in California, want to see some lightheartedness from the government because, it's no secret how America actually conquered this land and taken the land from the natives was by brute force and trickery, right? So from that alone, you would want to respect the people here who are even though they're coming from Mexico. This was not a part of America in original times. So they are expecting some lightheartedness right now. So you're probably getting a lot of bash back from not only U.S. citizens but immigrants who are saying, "Hey, we've came here, seeking a better chance at life because where we're from, there's difficult times, so they come here to try to make a better opportunity, and you guys are acting like this was your land and that we just gave it over to you in a peaceful treaty, and that's little far-fetched." All right, so those are my two takes on that. I feel like it's important that we as people, again, we stick together with each other and we learn what is correct and what is right. For me, I'm not going to sit here and say whether these immigration tactics are right or wrong, because based on the information I have given you, just on my opinion and what we read online, there's a mixture of information out there. What I will say is that I think ICE, ERO, CAP, these organizations, that if they are just and correct, they can make a positive difference. But here's where I draw the line. I draw the line if the government is able to just come and raid a person's home without a valid reason, without a valid warrant, and they do it unlawfully. I believe every person is granted due process of law, and snatching somebody up, in certain ways is not necessarily due process of law. And also, if we're doing planned targeted attacks on a race, quote unquote, or ethnic group of people, due to personal gain and greed reasons, I also don't stand for that. So unfortunately, there is a mix of opinions that's floating around in this ICE raid and in this conversation. Now, hopefully you guys don't view me as a bad person because of the way that I view this topic. If you do, I'm sorry about that. If you'd like to contact me and talk about it, let's talk about it. But I personally feel that these ICE raids could be handled a little differently, and that it's not just Mexican immigrants who cause problems. So there's bigger things at hand. There are people of all colors and all bloodlines and all nations cause problems. So I think there's a bigger conversation at hand that should probably be used. And who knows? So this is a very interesting time. I'm actually in California. I'm not in LA, but I'm not far from it. So this is a very interesting time for everyone. I just, like I said, encourage everyone to, look at your heart, search your heart. If you feel hatred in your heart for another race of people or ethnic group of people, I think you should work on changing that. And I think you should find people of those friends and colors and learn, that there are good ones out there. I'm a melanated man, and I understand why a lot of people hate melanated men, because of how a lot of melanated men have acted in the past, present, and will probably act in the future. But it doesn't mean that all melanated men are murderers, robbers, killers, thieves, thugs, hoodlums. That's not what that means. No matter what color you're from, what nation you're from, what bloodline you're from, or what color you are, you can be a thug, a hoodlum, a robber, a killer. So that needs to be understood. And right now, I just want to give the advice to all the young people out there and the people who feel like they have to do something or say something to make a difference. You can, but the best thing that we can do is teach people how to stand together and teach people how to be right. And we have to be able to check our peers. If you hear one of your peers that are saying racist, negative things about another person, you should tell them, like, yo, that's not even right. And if you feel that way, you should search yourself and be like, you know what, I shouldn't feel this way. And not everyone is like that. So that's just a little breakdown on my opinions on this. Like I said, I'm not the most well-versed in this conversation. I'm just giving you a little bit of feedback that was from the internet, from ABC News, and then giving you my opinion on how I feel about these raids, these detentions, and warrants that have been going out in America. I personally think that there's bigger things that we could look at and focus on, but that's another podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in and being a part of this podcast, talking about these raids. Again, if you want to learn how to stay healthy, check out the Raw Earth docuseries. Check out Mirrorless Media Group for your content creation and needs. And this has been NOCAP Yog, NOCAPYOG, with another podcast, the NOCAP Podcast. Peace and love, family. Stay blessed.